another aspect of Dr. Cohen. As you can see, I'm not old, but I'm not young either. But I was one of the younger brothers in the alumni chapter in Hattiesburg Alumni. I met Dr. Cohen probably, I was 10th grade, but I did not know who he was or what kind of giant he was in this community until I had a toothache one day at school. And I remember being checked out and coming down there in Mobile Street. I had not been to the dentist before until about the 10th grade. And the toothache got so bad it needed to be pulled. And so, guess who pulled my tooth on Mobile Street? Grover Smith. And then after that, of course, I needed a prescription. I had never been to Cohen Drug before, but I walked right down the sidewalk and got that prescription filled. Now, during all this time, I don't know that these men are men of Kappa Alpha Psi. And growing up here in Hattiesburg, I found out later on that I was surrounded my whole life by men of Kappa. I got some Kappa brothers in the audience here this morning. Glad to see them. I have a friend by the name of Keith Clark. I'm about 10 years old. Used to go down to Brother Clark's house, Norris Clark house, and play in his backyard the whole time, not knowing what Kappa was. Later on, I went to the University of Southern Mississippi and got introduced to Kappa Alpha Psi. Later on, became a member of the Hattiesburg Alumni Chapter. Well, when I got to the Hattiesburg Alumni Chapter in 1992, Dr. Cohen was the keeper of exchequer. That's the financial secretary or whatever of the fraternity. Now that I remember seeing this guy when I was about 15 years old, like, he's a captain. Okay. Well, I learned when I was becoming a member about the founders of the Hattiesburg Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi. Dr. Cohen was, I believe he was made and pledged fraternity in 1955. At that time, Hattiesburg did not have an alumni chapter. So he was affiliated with the Jackson Alumni Chapter. But lo and behold, in October 1960, there were a group of young men who decided to start an alumni chapter here in Hattiesburg. And Dr. Cohen was one of those men, along with Enoch Burton, C. Roy, Samuel Earl Wilson III, and many more of these guys. And you probably remember these names that I'm calling out. These guys were giants here in Hattiesburg. Giants. And so we had a couple of co-marks, or what we call a co-mark, which is the president of our chapter. There was Mr. Pickett, had been co-mark for 14 years. Then we had Harper Wilson come along after him, was the pole mark for 19 years. Then after him was Eugene Smith, that was the pole mark. And then after him, I came along as a pole mark as a young man in 2003. Now I said all of that to give you those number of years because Dr. Cohen was the treasurer for all of them. Including me, my first year as the pole mark at Hattiesburg Alumni Chapter. Now let me tell you, this man could keep up with some money. And he did it the old way. And I learned then that he was also the treasurer for his church, Priest Creek. He was keeping the numbers in the reports in a tablet with a pencil or a pen. And let me tell you, would not lose a dime. Now, how did he do that? I don't know. With the church and with us. And on fraternity meeting nights, we would what we call participate in 3 categories. That's the local dues, the national dues, and then we had something called savings. So a brother may come up tonight and say, I want to put $20 on dues I want to put $10 on the national dues and $5 in savings. And he's writing all this down for all the brothers in the chapter that paid that night. And not only that, right after that, we get the report. And he go down that list meticulously. Who paid what and in what category. And he never missed a beat. And so when I came on, I felt real secure in knowing that the money was going to be right. And whenever I had a question when it came to what I could spend or what we had, he was always on point. He was always there. Mr. Cohen is a giant in this community. I grew up in Hattiesburg. Started my life out over on where actually Robinson Place, lived on Tustin. I remember we had fraternity meetings, and at this time, we would go to each other's houses. Brothers would host a fraternity meeting at a brother's house. Am I right, Ms. Fluke? And all the brothers would come to that brother's house, and his wife and daughters or whoever they got to cook for us, they served meals that night. Well, I remember the first time I had been down to Palms Crossing many times in my life, turning that corner and going down that long road. And I always wondered who lives in that blonde brick house over there with that big front yard. Because I'm going down to Palms Crossing, but the first house that I always saw and got to was that big blonde brick house. And so I always wondered, who is that man? Because it was a nice house, at least in my eyes. And so I remember the first time we went to Brother Cohen's house because he was hosting the meeting. And I'm like, that's this brother. And so we all have a place of reference in our hearts for Brother Dr. Cohen. He could keep the money. He wasn't going to make no mistake. He wasn't going to lose it. He was kind of quiet in the fraternity. He didn't talk a whole lot. But when he did speak, it was like he yelled good. Everybody listened. And so the younger brothers, and I got a young brother over here, Jermaine Brown, you know, some of these older guys and what we call old heads, they didn't know sometimes what we thought about them and what kind of names or nicknames we may have had on them. And so we had a Jermaine gonna laugh now because we had a name for Brother Dr. Cohen. You know, his last name is Cohen. It sounds like corn. And so he was always smooth and quiet, and so we called him James Sweet Cohen. Am I right, Brother Brown? So it wasn't the young guy, it was James Sweet Cohen. So that's some fun memories of Dr. Cohen. He was also instrumental in another way in this community as a Boy Scout leader here in Hattiesburg. And so we were talking the other night at the fraternity meeting, and you know you have guys who are leaders and they out front, and they vocal, and they're loud, and with good reason, and they're great leaders. But sometimes you have leaders in the background too, that's got some power and some influence in pulling the strings. And I said the other night that, you know, in this community, in every fraternity, an organization, a church, or whatever it may be, you have some folks behind the scenes that are quiet, but are making some things go. And I said that those guys were tree shakers. And what I mean by that, I remember growing up here in Hattiesburg, my grandmother and aunt had pecan trees in the backyard. And sometimes they wasn't quite falling like we needed them to fall, but we were trying to fill up those grocery bags of pecans. Some of you may know what I'm talking about. And so we have a boy, or somebody that can climb a tree, to get up there and shake that limb. And the corns will come, those pecans start falling to the ground, and we picking them up and putting them in the bag so we can eat. And to me, James Cohen is one of those guys that was a tree shaker, and loosening things up and producing. so we can eat. And so like the great man, Mr. Clance, just got through talking about, he was one of those types of guys who some of the work that he did is still around now. So as a fraternity brother, he was a stalwart, a founder of the Hattiesburg Alumni Chapter. And I feel very honored to get a chance to know Brother Dr. Cohen and to serve with him and sit up at the table and with him every month and serve the fraternity in the way that we did. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bond, for those